There, it's Dr. Shiana Reams. And today we are going to talk about the myth that Alexander slept with a copy of the Iliad under his pillow. He did not. In fact, it would have been pretty much impossible for him to have done so. And we'll talk about why. But first, I want to welcome the new subscribers to the website. There are quite a few across the last couple weeks. So hello, welcome. If you stumble over this video and you are interested in Alexander the Great, stories about him, history, ancient Macedonia, all of that, then you can hit subscribe and be alerted whenever I drop a new video. So there aren't a lot of bells and whistles here, as you can see. I'm in my office. I don't do AI. I don't do fancy microphones and all of that. Hopefully you're here for the information. And that I can bring you. There are no ads also on this. It's an ad-free video because my salary is paid for by the University of Nebraska at Omaha. So thank them for this video. And I run I'm director of the Ancient Mediterranean Studies program there, and I am a specialist on Alexander the Great and specifically on his court and on Argead Macedonia prior to that. So that's a little bit about me. There's an introduction video on the very first one. If you haven't already viewed it, you may want to. That has a little bit more information. But I did want to just say hello to the new folks and a little bit about who I am. Now, returning to our this matter of Alexander and the Iliad, as I think most people know, the Iliad was supposedly Alexander's favorite book. I don't think there's much debate about that. And we're told by Plutarch that he slept with a copy of it under his pillow. So here's some material. It's from Plutarch's Life of Alexander, and chapter 8, he says, this is Robin Waterfield's translation. He was also interested in literature, studious, and fond of reading. He regarded and referred to the Iliad as a handbook on warfare, and carried about with him Aristotle's recension of the text, which he called the Iliad of the casket, and always kept under his pillow along with his under his pillow along with the dagger, according to Onesicritus. All right, now I'm going to pause there before I explain the casket, and I'm going to say a little something about Onesicritus. And again, in some prior videos, I have talked about the sources. And I know as soon as somebody says sources, everybody's like, boring. But this is how we know what we know about Alexander. So it's important to know a little bit about the sources. And in the one I did on our lost sources, I do mention Onesicritus, among other people. The problem with Onesicritus is he was laughed at even in his own lifetime by others. Now, he knew Alexander. He was a steersman. He went with Alexander on the campaign, but he tended to exaggerate his own importance, and he told stories that even other people who were there are like, no, where did you get this? I was there too. This did not happen. So we have to be very, very careful. The other thing I talked about with our sources is that sometimes we have not just one source. No sources that were written in Alexander's lifetime or shortly after have survived. Our earliest source dates about 300 years after Alexander's lifetime. So we don't have Onesicritus anymore. Plutarch did, and Plutarch is citing him here. Now here's the other problem. Onesicritus doesn't know what he's talking about either, and Plutarch appears to have misunderstood. Onesicritus may have gotten this information about the pillow from Chares of Mytilene. So there's a little bit of a bread trail here. So we have Plutarch. Plutarch is citing Onesicritus, and probably Onesicritus is citing Chares. So here are three different sources before we get the one, or two, before we get the third here. So, what is this casket that they're talking about? Well, Plutarch tells us that as well, right? And he says, I can get to the page here, in chapter 26 of the Life, when he was brought a casket which was in the estimation of those who had appropriated Darius's property and baggage, the most valuable item there, he asked his friends what they thought was important enough to be kept in it. Various suggestions were made, but he himself said that he would put the Iliad there for safekeeping. This story is vouched for by quite a few reliable sources. So that's this casket, is some gold box, probably not solid gold, but gold covered, that is large enough to fit the Iliad in. All right? Now, if you have never read the Iliad, it is 24 books in length. This is a translation of it, Carolyn Alexander's. Here's the size of it. Okay. Now, yes, there's some introductory material here, and there's some back matter as well. So the whole pagination isn't the Iliad, but it's long. Also, this is a codex. Now, this might fit under your pillow, and it would maybe be uncomfortable to sleep on, but you could fit it under your pillow with its small print, etc. That's not a book from the time period of Alexander. Now, that is a style called a codex. Book just means length. I mean, even today we have two different available book formats, the printed kind and an ebook. Now, in Alexander's day, a book was in scroll format. And the Iliad was so long with its 24 books or chapters. To us, a book like in the Iliad we would probably call that a chapter. It is so long that it took 7, 8, 9 scrolls to fit. And a scroll is about this size when it's rolled up. Right? Another fun detail about scrolls, despite your bad Hollywood films, you do not read a scroll this way, lengthwise. You read it horizontally. And then you just roll it together wherever you stop. So that's your bookmark in an ancient scroll. So length is what makes a book. There are too many scrolls to fit under your pillow. Plus, you would smash them with your head. So there's all these logistical reasons why, no, this wouldn't work. Plus, if you're putting them in a casket that is big enough for 8 or 9 of these, this size, and about, at least that long, maybe longer, no, that's not going to be a very comfortable night's rest. So Alexander did not sleep with a copy of the Iliad under his pillow, even if Plutarch says so. So how on earth did this get going? Okay, so for this, we need to actually dig back into Chares and find out what he's referring to. All right. We are lucky in that there is a little reference unrelated to Alexander, okay, that tells us what this pillow is. And it's not a pillow. It's a room. All right. So in another collection called Athenaeus' Supper Party, and I mentioned that one also in one of the other videos about other sources, not the big five, but other sources on Alexander. Athenaeus often tells us where he got information from. That's the whole point of this collection of anecdotes, is to show off how well read he is. And so in book 12, at line 514 EF, we get the explanation, which he tells us is given by Chares of Mytilene. Now, who the heck is this? Alexander's chamberlain. Okay, and so Chares helpfully describes what is going on. So it says, Chares of Mytilene says in book 5 of his histories involving Alexander, the Persian kings had grown so addicted to luxury that a room large enough to hold 5 couches was located at the head of the royal bed, and 5,000 talents of coined gold were always stored inside. This was referred to as the king's pillow. He goes on, at his feet was another room large enough to hold 3 couches, where 3,000 talents of coined silver were stored. This was referred to as the royal footstool. So there you go, the Proskephalaion Basilikon, the king's pillow, is not a pillow at all, but a room. And so Alexander kept this casket in that room. Now, I want to give a special shout out where that was pointed out to me by Christopher Brunelle in his very charming article, Alexander's Persian Pillow and Plutarch's Cultural Commander. This is found in Classical Journal 112.3 from 2017. He is a professor emeritus at St. Olave's, where another colleague of mine, Tim Howe, is currently a professor. So that's where I first heard the mention of it, and I want to give credit where credit is due, but that helps to explain what happened here. We have a bad case of telephone. Okay, so Cares talks about this, mentions the Persian pillow where Alexander kept the casket, and then Onesicritus possibly is reading this and is in too much of a hurry or doesn't explain it and mentions it. And then Plutarch, many years later, okay, under the Roman Empire, when he's writing, takes it literally as a pillow. He slept with it. We already know that he slept with a dagger under his pillow, but he also has the Iliad under his pillow somehow magically. And Plutarch doesn't question this. It's just hysterical to me that you would think, because Plutarch knew what a scroll looked like. I mean, he was writing them. It's a confusion. But this neatly explains the problem and how the whole Alexander slept with the Iliad under his pillow got started. He did not sleep with the Iliad under his pillow. He slept with the Iliad in the king's pillow, which was a separate room apart from Alexander.